This is the Relevant Podcast.
It's episode 1144, and it's 1144. The numerologist girls just got excited. It's the Relevant Podcast here in Orlando. I'm your host, Cameron Strang. And joining me from Loverland, Virginia, is Jesse Carey.
Hello, hello.
From Nashville, our managing editor, downtown Emily Brown.
Hey, y'all.
Derek is out traveling today. And from LA, you know him from Social Club Misfits, it's Marty.
What's up?
1144. What does that mean? New beginnings? I don't know. It means something.
I think it can mean whatever you want it to mean.
I got bad news.
White girl summer.
I got bad news. I
That's what it
think
means.
anytime I see a sequence of numbers that looks like it could have any meaning, I assume it's some sort of hidden Bible code, and this is the last days, my friends.
Omega code, baby.
Yeah.
I will be honest. I had an ex-girlfriend whose apartment she moved into a new apartment, and it was apartment 111, and she took this as a major sign from God that whatever. And then everywhere she looked, it was like 444 everywhere. I'm like, okay, this is a slippery slope to horoscope. So come on. I get there's numeral analogies and symbolism in the Bible and God's perfect number and all this kind of stuff, but like, come on.
One of my least favorite strands of and you guys know me. I'm down to talk a good conspiracy or weird codes or whatever. You guys know me. I don't need to prove my credibility in that space. But when people just see like random number, because you could use I could look up any verse and using a combination of those numbers and be like, see, like,
yeah,
that is the least interesting like rabbit hole.
Dude, I was visiting a friend in the hospital after surgery, and other friends were there, or I was visiting, and then other friends arrived, and they were like, did you see what floor you're on? The 8th floor. 8 is new beginnings. And I'm like, good Lord. And she's just on the 8th floor because she was in the whatever ward, So
I think one of my favorite stories my brother's ever done is he has a tattoo of, like the Drake symbol, the praying hands and the 6.
Mm-hmm.
So he has a tattoo of that because he loves Drake. And he got the tattoo, but he sent it to me the day he got it. And he was like, what's a Bible verse with the number 6 in it? So if mom asks, I can just tell her it's about like a prayer thing, whatever. And so I was like, I'm on it. And so I think I found something in Psalm, I don't know if it was Psalm 6 or whatever it was, but I sent it to him. I thought he was joking. He genuinely told our mom that like he got this for like a praying Bible verse. So then months later, I made a comment to my mom about Matt's Drake tattoo. And she was like, what do you mean his Drake tattoo? And I was like, the one with like the praying hands and the 6. And she like got quiet for a second. She goes, he told me that was about praying. And I was like, oh shoot, I got Matt in trouble. Like,
how old is Matt that he felt he needed to not just fabricate a story to your mom, but use the basis of his fabrication as a Bible verse? How old? What is the dynamics of this relationship?
So he's older than I am. I would say this was like 5 years ago. So he's about 25.
Okay.
That's it reminds me of like when
he was fully married, and I think I already had a kid. I do want to clarify that. Like,
oh wow,
full adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still in fear of parents. Yeah, I showed my tattoo at Cracker Barrel to my mom, and she screamed in the restaurant at Cracker Barrel. And everyone was staring at us. But I saw this thing on the Daily Show where this guy was like talking, and she's like, numbers mean a lot. And he's like, all right, so like today is like 11, 23, 12, whatever. She's like, that means JFK is going to be president. I'm like, what? How do people think like that? But there is a website right now that you can go on and you put the numbers in, and it's like a conspiracy theorist website. We should like put our birthdays in and just see what comes out about it. But it's like JFK is coming back as president. That's the numbers mean.
The only fun number one is when you put your birthday in and type in Florida man, and you see what comes up on that day, and then be like, this is probably how you'll die.
Oh, I hate that. Let's try
usually, so all you do is type in your birthday, and not the year, just like the day, and the word Florida man, and see what comes up.
Oh,
Florida man dubbed the diaper bandit, arrested after repeatedly trying to steal diapers. Very cool. On my birthday.
Here's mine. Florida man nicknamed Baby Cakes, caught naked in chair outside of apartment complex.
That's amazing. I like how there's many options for your birthday. Like this is the one under it. Man gets arrested after calling 911 to get a ride to Hooters. That's on my birthday.
Mine is Florida man bitten by alligator after mistaking it for dog. Riddle me that. How did we mistake that one?
But anyway, that's the extent of numerology that I'm in.
That's a really good. I'm going to tell my wife to look that one up.
Yeah, that's the extent of numerology.
Speaking of numbers, Marty texted us a couple days ago. He's like, I have something for the opening of the podcast, and he showed us some numbers.
Yeah.
Holy cow! Do you
Emily,
actually want to tell people?
Yeah, I'll tell. Emily, did you get on that? Because we have two different little chats for the
relevant.
I
was excluded out of that group chat. Don't you worry.
I was on. Okay. Can I set some context here?
Set some context.
Everybody who knows me knows that I'm just not a texter. I don't like, I'm on a lot of text threads, but I get overwhelmed. I lose track and
you mute them. I know you mute them.
I don't mute them because that will come up in the story. I don't even mute them. Because I like to get notifications that, like, if it's an emergency or something, I want to know. But it's like, and a lot of times, I can't contribute to a conversation till later. These days, I'm coaching like 3 kids sports team. It's just like, by the time I jump in the conversation, it's moved on. But I want to know, like, I want to glance down. So anyway, I was working on something late the other night. Was this 2 nights ago? Or yeah. I'm working on like an email. And it's late in the evening, and I get the notifications. They pop up on my laptop screen, and I missed the first one, but then I see ding 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 come in. So I like glance up, and I hear I see NICU. Like, and then I hear, oh my God, no, or oh my gosh, no, I'm so sorry, brother. Oh man. And I am like, what is happening right now? Because it is firing. And I heard something about a hospital. It's like, okay, I got to jump in. This is why I have the notifications on. That was my introduction to the story, Marty.
Yeah. So just to give everyone context, my child was born about 2 months early in the NICU, the newborn intensive care unit in Orange County. CHOC is the name of the hospital. It's a beautiful hospital. It's sponsored by like Disney, and Ryan Seacrest has his studios there. It's gorgeous. So we got A+ care. I'm setting the tone like that. The bill for 59 days at the NICU was, and that's not including my wife's stay, by the way, she was in there a couple of days before, was $1.1 million. $1.1 million.
You could build your own hospital, small hospital
it was
for that.
About $88,000 a day. Thank God for insurance. Like, I know you're probably like, what the heck is going on? Thank God for insurance, paying for everything. I don't think I'm paying for anything, but because he was, the good thing about California, as much as people love to hate on California, they got insurance. And because he came early, he is set. He's good. We are taken care of. But $1.1 million for 2 months at the NICU. Unbelievable.
And just to be clear, Marty likes attention. So he sent the invoice to us without telling us that insurance was paying for it. So we were going, no, sorry.
I like to set the tone bad.
Thinking he was getting a bill for $1.1 million.
Yeah. And before, I was just thinking something terrible has happened to someone. This is awful. And, but the other thing is, for $1.2 million, you could literally hire a team of nurses for that period of time.
Why you have to round it up?
It was higher than 1.1. It was closer to 1.2.
You rounded it, but it's that. It is that. It's what put to. It's like it's so outlandish. Like, I would literally have to declare bankruptcy. But the actual thing I got was the hospital and the insurance. What we were looking at was the hospital insurance going back and forth, disputing a couple things, like disputing like $13,000. And if you look at like $13,000, it's like $13,000 for like formula and like a special medicine. One piece of medicine was like $760. Just like, who's making, according to TikTok, they're like, get an itemized list. They have the itemized list. It's just crazy expensive. It's just outrageous, bonkers, if you will.
And people wonder why our insurance system is broken. I mean, it's like, because these private hospitals are charging $13,000 for formula. So then the insurance companies are having to overcompensate with.
Thank God it wasn't my roof, and thank God it wasn't covered by Allstate.
Jesse, I have a window right here, and I saw the man out of your window, and I thought he was outside my window for some reason, and I'm looking out the window like there's
what if he walked out of my frame and walked into your window?
That goes right into my window. What the heck is going on? Like all three of us.
Well, it is episode 1144. Something weird's happening.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I almost saw. By the way, my Cameron, you've been in my office. It's right on a sidewalk. I legit saw like a fight right outside the window the other day.
No way.
It was. Ooh. I've seen a lot of in the summertime. This sidewalk gets a lot of action, but this time of year, you get pedestrians here and there. But I saw a legit fight right outside the window. It was great.
Marty, you got to understand where they're at. It's like if you've ever been to Daytona Beach or Panama City Beach,
Black Biker Week,
or Myrtle Beach. Thank you. Okay. It's that kind of a beachfront town. So it's there's a nice part, but then there's kind of a spring breaky part.
Wings.
I mean, there's a reason why Drake named the song Virginia Beach Ghetto But Pretty, right? So it's like there's an edge to it. You know what I'm saying? So he is one block from the actual sand.
Yeah.
Right, like in his building, on the other side of his building is a huge like tourist gift shop type thing. You know what I mean? So this street that he's on is a spring break freaknik kind of street where a lot of
can they
people
see inside? No, they can't see
no.
you, right? Oh, that's perfect. It's like Larry David when he saw people kissing and he's like, "Hey, stop that!" Larry said people kissing in front of. Stop, get moving.
That's enough.
Like, what's your problem? Yeah, what's your problem? Get out of here.
The building across the street, which was vacant for a while, and then a psychic moved in for a while.
God.
I saw a forceful eviction with like the police one morning, and I think drugs were involved. Like it was a lot of weird. A lot of people appeared to be living in this office space because the police came and pulled a lot of people out. It's a pretty cool morning. It was a pretty and the thing
was
is
that
like
the fight that you saw?
No. This is a couple weeks ago. So as the police are like pulling, it's just like it was like you know those videos of like the clown car where it's just like all these people.
Yeah.
So this is an office that apparently a psychic was operating, but I never saw one customer go in there. So that's sort of a red flag, right? But one day the police show up and they just start pulling people out, and it is clown car status. It is people. I was like, I didn't know, man. That means people could fit in that building. And this first thing in the morning, they're sleeping in there. Like it was a whole, and they were bringing out like the drug dogs, and they had test kits. They're testing things. And me and some of the guys were in the office and we're like scoping the whole situation, and we really wanted to know the scoop because we've been following the ins and outs of this building every day. And so we went over and we went to the office coffee maker and made all these coffees and brought this and snacks, and we're like, let's go over and bring them to the police and they will give us an inside scoop. We're witnessing that. That was the best idea we cooked up because we're watching.
That's
police
awesome.
Stuff takes a long time, by the way. Police stuff takes like 3 hours. This could have been
they do it
accomplished
on purpose too. They take their time on because it's like it's nice day. They're like, why not?
But it kept getting more and more interesting. At one point they pulled out a bunch of dogs. Like it was I was fascinated by what was happening. Anyway, so we're like,
what was happening?
Know. Huh? Well, so that was the thing. We like we're theorizing, but you just see people getting pulled out. You're seeing drug test kits. You're seeing some people get handcuffed and driven away. So we go out there and we brew all this coffee because we're like, we will just provide the police with all these snacks and coffee and just start chatting it up with them. That didn't work. They took the coffee quickly, and then when we started asking questions, they shooed us away. They took and shooed, which I feel like you can't take and shoo. You can either reject, you can reject and shoo. But if you take, you can't shoo. At that point, you got to
pass off. Yeah, kindly pass us off.
So that was.
I also thought you said shoot for a second, and I was like, oh my god, they were shooting at you.
No, that was
shoot.
It didn't come to that. It was bad coffee.
Tensions were high.
Yeah. And we took here. I was angry at some of the snacks that we included, to be honest with you. Like it was some of the best snacks in the office that was for us. But some of the guys thought, no, this will get us answers. We need to give
what's the best snacks?
Yeah, like Nutter Butters. What are we doing?
Hey, thank you. It like you have like the healthy bars that are like those composite, like fall
apart all over you.
Yeah, or the ones that are like 2 almonds, an egg white, and and some
like the Cliff Bar kind of thing.
Yeah, some honeybee, from Guatemalan honeybee honey or whatever. Like, give them all those. Just load them up on those. Don't you touch the little Debbies? Don't you touch like the ones that are basically.
But don't you think the cops, maybe you should have brought them the little Debbies? They might have been more receptive.
Well, that's what happened. They threw in all the little Debbies too. Trust me, we marched back with all kinds of health bars. They're still sitting out there.
You should take like a time lapse. You should do like a time lapse of like the sunset where like they're also at the same time breaking into this house, pulling everyone out. It's like a big, beautiful time lapse. This is Myrtle Beach, baby. This is how we do it.
Yeah. Pretty but rough,
So
man.
Jesse, you gave them out of the generosity of your own heart. You gave them generously things. They took those things.
Wow.
And then they rejected you.
Yeah.
Welcome to my dating life. Now you know what it's like.
There's got to be a lesson in here somewhere. I think it's
Keep
withhold.
the good snacks for yourself.
Withhold,
Yes,
and
that's
just
it.
assume and we should just
Withhold
assume
and
the worst.
assume the rejection is coming.
Assume the worst
there you
too
go.
about
That's
the whole
amazing.
scenario.
Words to live by.
All right, well, we have a great show in store for you today. Coming up later, we talk to author, speaker John Bevere. I've known him for a very long time, one of our favorite faith leaders. He has a new book coming out. We talked to him about that. At the end of the show, we have your feedback, your prank feedback. You don't want to miss it. But stay tuned right now. Up next, it's Relevant Buzz. You're listening to Hannah Vu. The song is Care.
Season 4 of The Chosen is in theaters now, and the reviews that count are in.
Amazing. Did not disappoint.
Flurry of emotions. It was powerful, heartbreaking, uplifting.
You have got to come and see it. It is a message for everybody. I highly recommend that you come out and see The Chosen Season 4.
Episodes 1 through 3 of The Chosen Season 4 are in theaters till February 14th. So visit thechosenriseup.com and get your tickets now. That's thechosenriseup.com for tickets today.
Okay, it's time for
Relevant Buzz.
Tell us what's happening at the intersection of faith and culture this week, Emily.
Okay, so y'all know Russ, right? He's like the independent rapper. He's got like 500,000 listens on Spotify. Huge.
Wait, no. 500,000 listens on Spotify. This dude gets like 20 million a month.
20 million.
He's got songs.
Listens.
He's got multiple songs with
Like
more than 500 million.
Half a million
Half a
followers
billion.
maybe on Spotify.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I get those mixed up all the time. But point is, he's huge. You probably have heard one of his songs. We don't normally cover him, but he released a song that seems to kind of dive into faith. His fans were really surprised by it. We got the song here. It's called In the Dirt. We're going to play a clip of it right now.
How we ended up where we at, but we refuse to take accountability for the mindset that we choose. We forgot to lock the door. The devil's taking off his shoes, getting comfy, playing seeds now. And we wonder why gardens got weeds now. It's hard to breathe, anxiety don't let us sleep now. But we forget we got the key to be free now. So let's be free now. I ain't gonna let the devil win, nah, never. I ain't gonna let the devil in, nah, never. Feel worried, that's the devil at work on God. I'ma put him in the dirt, in the dirt, in the dirt. I ain't gonna let the devil win, nah, never. I ain't gonna let the devil in, nah, never. Feel worried, that's the devil at work on God.
It's interesting because I think you find out, a lot of people, even if they don't outwardly express it, especially if they're an artist, have some, even if they don't have like a direct experience with faith, they have indirect, through family or friends or just kind of some personal connection that it's interesting when it kind of finds its way out in their work, in their art.
And in interviews and stuff, and even in the lyrics, he's talking about like mental health struggles and anxiety and depression and things that are unfulfilling in life. And then he identifies that stuff with like, I'm not going to let the devil win. That's just an interesting correlation. Like you're saying, like he's not really a person of faith, but still even equates a spiritual component to a lot of the struggles a lot of people go through.
Well, I think later too in the song, he talks about like he struggled with lust and with gluttony and with, wanting just the things of this world kind of thing. And like that I appreciated just the honesty and like the reflection that he had.
Yeah, I think what I've been hearing a lot from like doing sessions with people, is there is a need in the industry right now to have actually something to say. And I think that that's cool. Like Russ is saying something here. I think that we have maxed out. I think we've said this before too in one of the earlier episodes, but we've kind of maxed out on like rap or music that is just generic and not really specific. It doesn't go deep. People want to go deep right now. And Russ is really good at communicating and being able to talk about subjects without, like, it always feels fresh when he addresses it. So I think the song is great. I think everything he releases is great. And I'm happy to see this happening. I wish more artists could take that approach too.
I agree. The one thing that I noticed, like on TikTok and stuff, like the Christian corner of TikTok, it was like all these Christian influencer, creators going, is Russ a Christian now? And then they would play the clip and they were like trying to claim him, and it's just
he's like Jewish though. So it's like, I think his mom's like Jewish and his dad's like Catholic or like he's Italian. It's like I think it's a mix of things.
Yeah. But I think, like, to your point, Cameron, there is this like desire that a lot of people have of like co-opting someone because they came out with one Christian song. Yeah. I have looked, I'm a researcher. I have looked for him talking about his faith, looking for this song. I can't really find much. And so like, I hope that he continues down this path. I hope he continues to explore his faith, but I do think that there is wisdom in being cautious about like, oh, he's a Christian, we should follow what he does. I would not say that. I would actually say the opposite.
I think it also speaks to how a lot of times in the real world, not maybe in kind of like the celebrity world where a lot of times that's like marketed or monetized, people live on sort of a spectrum of morality and even faith and doubt, right? Like, I don't think it breaks one way. Like, oh, they're just this like Christian who lives this sort of lifestyle and believes this sort of thing. That's just not how it works in the real world, not just with faith, but with a lot of things,
All right. What's next?
There was an interesting new report that found that more and more companies are no longer requiring candidates to have a bachelor's degree to apply for jobs. Instead, they're focusing on just a candidate's skill set and experience that they've had. And this is true across like all industries, like marketing, healthcare, education, and it's big companies like Walmart,
healthcare.
IBM.
I want my doctors to have degrees.
All these fields. So it's a lot of companies like Walmart, IBM, Bank of America, Google, just a lot of really big companies.
I think it makes sense, man. I mean, honestly, the other thing too is like, how many employers are even verify? I'm sure at Google or IBM, but how many employers are even verifying the degrees? Like a lot of people could just put, I went to this school or that school. I think in this day and age, especially as specific technical aptitudes are often kind of what leads to jobs. It doesn't really matter where you learned it as long as you can do it well for a lot of fields. Like who cares if you have a degree in audio production if you're really good at what you do? Like I'd rather have I'd rather have the person who learned on their own if they're more skilled than someone who happens to have paid money for a degree for it,
Yeah, I was going to say that too. Like they're in the music industry and a lot of the industries that I'm around, it's really based on your work. That's all that matters. So like I went to Berkeley in 2020 to get some type of degree. Like I took like 5 business classes and I was like, you know what? I just want to have that. And I remember telling my buddy, I'm like, I just want to have that on my wall. I graduated. I did this. Berkeley. It's such my favorite, always looked up to it. And my buddy was like, dude, at this point in life, you don't need that. Like it's all based on your experience and what you could do. And, it does matter, but it doesn't matter, and I was like, oh, okay, well, now I know like everything now is being judged on your past work.
Well, I think you can also learn so many things just on like YouTube now. Like there's so many ways
YouTube
to
University.
Like get an education. Cause like what I really am excited for is like younger students or just younger people who feel like they can't get a higher paying job because they can't afford college. And it's like, well, you could still actually get a really great job and you don't have to go into debt for a college degree anymore.
I learned more about business working concert festival booths for a summer than I did taking business classes in college. I mean, legit, like a real world experience where you're like, okay, lesson number 1, where the booth is in the tent is the most important factor. Well, lesson 2, how do I get there? Okay, I have to go establish relationships and maybe barter, trade this or that. Okay, what does the signage look like? When are we going to open? When are we going to, like, a crash course that in just real world experience? It's that's what all those business theories are based on, or what fill in the blank with the field. Like, they're teaching you something that it's probably better off to learn in the real world a lot of times, because you kind of the real world doesn't have the benefit of study time. It's like, look, no, this is crash course, and you either learn or fail, and maybe you do both at the same time, but you're going to come out with a lot of knowledge here. All
right, what's the last thing?
Last thing I want to talk about is TikTok really quick, because Pew Research just came out with a new study that had some interesting stats. First off, out of curiosity, how many U.S. adults do you think are on TikTok?
When you say on, do you mean watch or like create or consume?
Oh, that's a good distinction.
And by adults, do you mean everybody over 18?
Yes.
I mean, if you're,
I'm assuming it's like have the app and regularly consume content. I'm assuming that's what it means on.
Yeah,
I would say,
think they would watch. I don't think they're making stuff, right?
I would say 30%.
I would say 32, because like it's 18 to 40-year-olds is going to be like 85%, and then after 40 to 90-year-olds is going to be 1%. So it's like 5%. I would say a third. I would agree.
You guys are right. It is a third of adults. But I love that you pointed out that just because you're on the app doesn't mean you're like really posting, because the study found 52% of adult users don't post a video. They're just scrolling all day.
This is fun.
That's me. That's me.
I've never once be way higher.
I've never once posted a video on TikTok, but I'm on it every day.
You thought it would be higher, Jesse. What do you like? You thought
I thought there'd be way more people who just scroll than actually post content there. I thought it would be like maybe I would think like the 80-20 rule would apply for a platform like that, where basically 80% of the users are consumers, where 20% are the creators. It would shock me that half are actually making content too. I don't know. I don't know that this is anecdotal. Anyone personally who's creating TikTok content, but I know a lot of people who stay up late just scrolling all night.
Marty does. Marty takes.
Well, there we go.
Well, it doesn't say anything about like they're regularly creating content.
But Emily's point, I think, is important, because like it's not that they regularly make content 50% regularly. It's like at one point 5 years ago, I did a couple things that basically are Instagram stories now, and they're just sitting there on my page. I've never created since. But when this pollster says, do you create or have you created TikTok content? You would have to say yes. Yeah. So I would say the number would be more of what you're thinking, Jesse, if you're thinking about regularly creating.
Yeah. Because like I've posted videos on TikTok. I do not consider myself a TikTok creator. I've had it for like
what's your screen name so everybody can go find it?
No, thank God my name is Emily Brown. So if you want to find me, you have to look really, really hard.
Numerology theories.
Jesse's account is the Myrtle. What's going on Myrtle's? You're in Myrtle Beach, whatever, It's like all the content from Virginia Beach around you.
Jesse, I would love to know what your TikTok feed looks like. Yeah. Is it just a bunch of conspiracy theories?
No, well, I'll be honest. I don't. I'm more of like reels and shorts on YouTube. I don't scroll much on TikTok. Not out of principle. YouTuber, I just a lot of YouTube shorts. But no, I do get. But it's not like
your whole feed is First Amendment audits, basically, Jesse. If you're on YouTube,
I do get. It's funny. I was talking to somebody today. It was like somehow I'm getting a lot of Antarctica conspiracies right now. Like I don't know
what's going on in Antarctica.
Oh, do we start here? How much time do we have left? Because if I tell you this,
don't start this.
The other thing too is I know it's listening. I know it's listening because the other thing, I'm getting a lot of Love is Blind meme content. Dana and I were, I'm not like a regular watcher, but if I'm like hanging out and Dana has it on, but it was that, I don't know how much you guys have watched this season.
Of course, I watched the season,
in the pods. One of the real quick, the conceit of the show is it's a dating show where you don't see the other person. You're each in pods and you can just talk to each other. And the girl described herself as looking like Megan Fox. And the guy, when they met, and you meet for the first time, he didn't. It was clear he didn't think that was a good celebrity sort of analog for
Okay,
it.
I haven't watched this at all, but I do know this situation. So the guy was talking to two women, apparently. One was a smoke show, Drop Dead Gorgeous. The other one was this lady.
And she was still pretty. She was still pretty
in her own way.
Fine.
Let's not act like she's ugly.
And this guy is apparently the guy's kind of a bad dude because like he's super superficial. He's super into looks.
Most of them are.
Blah, blah, blah. And so because the super pretty smoke show lady didn't talk about how gorgeous she is, he like got rid of her to go with the Megan Fox lady, and then he was very disappointed with upon meeting her.
Either way, most of what I'm getting fed right now, if I'm being completely honest with you. And so we were talking about that the next day. That was all I got in Reels right now. So Reels and Shorts for me right now, if you're asking what my algorithm is, tons of Antarctica conspiracies, which we can do a whole episode on if you guys want. There's some wild stuff out there. Tons of Antarctica conspiracies and memes, not for Love is Blind, about that specific interaction. Like I have puppets. I have a puppet interaction. I have side-by-side comparisons of this woman at different stages in her life with different stages of Megan Fox's life. I have reenactments with people like in wigs. I have like, who are this guy's cops? Like, does he really look like? We heard he said Christian McCaffrey off camera. Here's some Christian McCaffrey footage. And then it wasn't love. It wasn't Love is Blind memes. It was memes to a specific moment in the show, and it just and it took over my Reels, and that's all I'm getting right now is that. And Emily, do you guys know the conspiracy about Antarctica, the secret pyramid down there?
So I've heard about it.
Okay.
There's a secret world over there. It's like they don't.
So there was a military admiral named Admiral Richard Byrd who, after World War II, took 5,000 troops to Antarctica. 5,000, which is significant. And they lost a couple over there, and we're doing kind of these military operations. Officially, it was for like research, but there was supposedly like a lost diary where he said he got in a battle with like UFOs. Anyway, a couple years after Richard Byrd went, America actually was testing nuclear bombs and dropped a bunch of nukes over Antarctica. Right now, there are places in Antarctica where there's international treaties where you're just not allowed to go. There's also on Google Earth what appears to be a pyramid in Antarctica. So the conspiracy theory is like a lost civilization has been hiding out there. I'm not saying there's validity. I'm just saying because I talked about it with a friend one time, like I talked about Love is Blind
nonstop
meme, they're flooding the zone with it. They're flooding the zone with Antarctica content and one specific. And it's not because I've ever like sought this stuff out. I think it's listening. I've become one of those people
close to the sun, man. You got to be careful. The government's like he's onto it. He's got a podcast.
It's heard me talk about these two things like one time, and for some reason, some keyword was triggered an algorithm, and that's all I'm getting. That I used to get a lot of basketball, no more basketball highlights. It's Antarctica and making fun of one moment in the latest season of Love is Blind, a show
you don't get the Orlando Magic victory song clips that everybody's getting. Ninja was talking about it the other day.
My son's team is the Magic.
Other NBA players post. Kudos to the Magic because like or other fan bases. Like I'm a diehard Knicks fan and I like all day long I'm just singing this Orlando Magic song.
I had to seek that out. I had to seek that out because I saw someone comment on it. That's how aggressive these algorithms have gotten is they're pushing everything that I'm actually interested in for I don't know why. Those are the two lanes I'm in.
I absolutely believe the government's listening to us, but my friend and I, whenever we talk about something that we like want to know more about, sometimes we will jokingly like pick up our phone and just directly speak into it, like Antarctica conspiracy theories, and then just like wait for the algorithm to start showing us more conspiracy theories. I am on the Kate Middleton conspiracy theory. We can talk about that later.
Oh, what's that?
All right, we got to wrap this up. We're
going too deep.
That's for the next episode. All right, that'll do it for
Relevant Buzz.
Check out relevantmagazine.com every day where we are covering more stories like that, the intersection of faith, culture, and everything in between. Stay tuned. Up next, John Bevere joins us.
Grains in the hourglass, gonna keep you walking in a desert land. If there's a way to make it with a steady hand, then I'd like to try it if you think that we can. Sometimes we're gonna disagree. Don't let it stop you loving me, but just get
You're listening to Matt Corby. The song is Desertland. Well, Relevant has a lot happening this year, and we don't want you to miss a thing. Make sure to sign up for our newsletter right there on the front page at relevantmagazine.com, and we'll send you our top 5 trending stories sent to your inbox every weekday. We'll also send you a weekly podcast newsletter with the latest episodes, some fan extras, and first peeks at the new shows that we're going to be rolling out throughout this year. Make sure to sign up. It's the best way to keep in touch with everything we got going on. Well, our guest today is John Bevere. He's a speaker and author of dozens of books, like The Awe of God, and his latest, Everyday Courage. We talked to him about living a bold faith and how making simple changes in our spiritual life can lead to major growth. Here's Emily's conversation with John Bevere.
Well, thanks for speaking with me today. We're here to talk about your latest books, The Awe of God and Everyday Courage. And both cover topics that impact all of our lives, which is having a fear of the Lord and also having a bold faith. And so I'd love to just start there. Why does our faith need courage?
Well, I mean, Emily, that is an outstanding question. I want to bring you back to a time period in my life when I was suffering from being just down and discouraged. And in prayer, the Holy Spirit asked me during this time period, he said, son, what's the opposite of courage? And I said, fear. And he said, son, put a dis in front of courage. And I went, wow, discouragement. Now, Emily, think about this. The older generation had all died in the wilderness. And here's Joshua ready to take the new generation into the promised land. Excuse me. And what does God say to him 7 times in the book of Numbers, the book of Deuteronomy, and the book of Joshua? And he says it through Moses, he says it through the elders, and he directly says it to him. Be strong and of good courage, which tells us that you are going to get the opportunity to be discouraged in entering into your destiny. So think about all of us as believers today. We all have destinies. We all have promised lands that God has called us to. What's the number one thing he's going to say to every one of us? Be strong and of good courage. Now, why do we need to be of good courage in this day and hour? Because the forces of darkness have unleashed their attack against silencing the church more than ever. If you look at Jesus didn't say go into all the world and make disciples of all nations by keeping quiet. He said, teaching them to do whatever I've commanded you. Now, what happened? I think this is such a tremendous strategy of the devil. What does he do? He gets a bunch of legalistic preachers. What is legalism? Legalism is when I'm speaking the letter of the word of God without a heart of love. I'm speaking truth without a heart of love. When I speak truth without a heart of love, it turns into legalism. So what happens is we swung the pendulum to the other side and we're saying, hey, let's just kind of bring people on journeys. But the problem is we never get them to truth. We never get them to the place of having that authentic relationship where there is genuine repentance, genuine hatred for sin, a genuine passion for God. If you think about the Christians of the 2nd and 3rd century, you think about the Christians of the 14th and 15th century, they were burned at the stake, they were crucified, they were put on racks and stretched. What gave them the courage to continue to stand up for Jesus when a world was hostile against them? It was the fact that they had a genuine awe of God, a fear of God. Our church fathers have preached every generation until this generation. They preached every generation that what frees us from all unhealthy fears is the fear of God. Now, Emily, the fear of God is not to be afraid of God. It's actually being afraid of being away from God. When God brought Israel out of Egypt, Moses led them right to the mountain. And that mountain is where Moses met with God. Now, I want you to stop and think about this really carefully. Israel is abused by Egypt. Their children are put to death. They have stripes on their backs. They're working all their lives to build somebody else's inheritance. They were brutally treated by Egypt, the world. They come out of Egypt, and what do they constantly say? Let's go back to Egypt. It was better for us back in Egypt. Moses was raised in the most beautiful home on the planet. His grandfather is the wealthiest man on the planet. He comes out of Egypt, and he never once says, I want to go back to Egypt. It was better for me. Well, if you look at the contrast between Moses' life and Israel's life, Israel was oppressed. Moses actually had a pretty good life. He could have any party he wanted, any chariot. He could have the latest Ferrari chariot. He could do whatever he wanted, but he never once says it was better for me. Why? He had one encounter with that bush at Mount Sinai. And he brings the people right to that place. Think about it. He never said to Pharaoh, thus saith the Lord, let my people go that they can go to a promised land. He said, let my people go that they can go to the wilderness to worship or to meet God. Correct? He brings them to that mountain. God comes down to introduce himself because God says to Moses in a private meeting, he says in Exodus 19, you tell all those 3 million people the whole reason I delivered them out of Egypt was to bring them to myself. God is like, I want to have intimacy. That's his number one desire, is to have intimacy with you and I. He is more passionate about being intimate with us than we are with him. So God tells Moses, get him ready because I'm going to come introduce myself. 3 days later, God comes down and the people all scream and run away. Moses is shocked, and he makes a statement in Exodus 20:20 that's mind-blowing. He said to the people in Exodus 20:20, do not fear, because God's come to see if his fear is in you so that you may not sin. Whoa, wait a minute. Do not fear because God's come to test you to see if his fear is in you. Is Moses speaking out of two sides of his mouth? No, he is differentiating between being scared of God and the fear of the Lord. There's a massive difference. The person who is scared of God is something to hide. That's what Adam does when he sins against God. He hides from the presence of the Lord. The person who fears God is nothing to hide. That person's actually terrified of being away from God. So if you want to look at the very first definition of the fear of God, the healthy fear of God is to be scared, even terrified of being away from God. So Israel lacked the fear of the Lord. What we lack in our generation right now is the healthy fear of God. We've forgotten who it is we're serving. We have forgotten that this is the one that weighed every drop of water on the planet in the palm of his hands. He measured the mountains in his scales. He put the stars in the universe with his fingers and called everyone by name. One glimpse of God in the most righteous man in his generation, Isaiah, cries out, woe is me, because he realizes who it is he's really serving, and he's a godly man. One glimpse of God, the most righteous man on the planet, out of God's mouth, Job says, I've heard you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you. I utterly abhor myself. One glimpse of God, who Moses was very close with. He said in Hebrews chapter 12, I exceedingly fear and I'm trembling. When John the Apostle sees Jesus on the island of Patmos, he was the closest disciple, but he sees Jesus in his glory. He falls down like a dead man when he sees his countenance brighter than the sun. We've got to remember who it is we're serving. And Isaiah 45 verse 15 says, you are a God who hides yourself. The question is, Emily, are we going to be in awe of the talented athletes, the beautiful Hollywood stars that we have, the guru businessmen? Are we going to see the glory of God in our hearts in the face of Jesus Christ? He hides himself. Why? To see what is going to enamor us, what's going to excite us, what's going to draw us. The glory that's not visible to the world of God that we see in our hearts, or if we're going to be drawn to the talented people and the beautiful people of our day.
I'm so glad you explained the difference between being afraid of God and having a fear of the Lord, because I absolutely agree. That is something that I think a lot of my generation has specifically struggled with and wrestled with. I would love to know, how does someone correct that belief, and how do we move from being afraid of God to being in awe of him?
I do believe that if we would spend more time in his awesome presence, I know, Emily, when I get in the presence of God, that's my goal. I want to connect with God every day. I think a lot of times pastors, ministers, even believers, they go off of yesterday's encounter, if that makes sense. Now I'm not in the Word every single day, beholding him. I'm not in prayer, getting into his presence. I may be singing worship songs, but am I really connecting? And what happens with me, and I think the Bible teaches this, is we connect with this awesome God. When Jesus said, let me give you an example. I used to really struggle to connect with God, to get into his presence. And that's a very real part of Christianity. Jesus said, I will manifest myself. Manifest means I'll openly reveal myself. I used to really struggle to get into his manifest, tangible presence. One day I went into prayer and I just started thinking, wow, my Father measured the universe with the span of his hand. He put the stars in their orbits with his fingers. He weighed every drop of water on this planet in the palm of his hands. All of a sudden, there's the presence of God. I went, whoa, that was easy. The next day I tried it again. I didn't say anything in English, didn't listen to any songs. I just started thinking about the awesomeness of my Father. Bam, there's his presence again. I thought, wait a minute. Third day, same thing happened. Third day I said, wait a minute. This is so easy. And the Holy Spirit said, what did Jesus teach his disciples when he taught them to pray? And I said the Lord's Prayer, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed. I went, oh, wow. Hallowed be your name. Jesus taught the disciples, you come into the presence of God with awe, with wonder of who he is. The Bible says in Psalm 89, verse 7, God is to be greatly feared in the assembly of the saints, and to be held in reverence by all those around him. I learned experientially that you'll never find the presence of God in an atmosphere where he's not held in awe or wonder. If you look at Leviticus 10:1, Aaron's two sons, Nadab and Abihu, they were authorized to come into the presence of God, just like we're authorized to come into the presence of God through the blood of Jesus. They were authorized, but they came with irreverent fire. The Bible says profane, but that word profane means to treat what is sacred as common. So when we look at God and we reduce him down to common or ordinary, we're coming with profane fire, irreverent fire, right? Those boys were struck down dead. Moses looks at, and this is Uncle Moses, because these are his nephews. He looks at Daddy Aaron and says, hey, this is what God has commanded by those who come near me. So those who touch my presence, right? Come near my presence, not touch my presence. I think it's better to say, come near my presence. I must be regarded as holy. And before all the people, I must be glorified. So when we really grasp who it is and we begin to just turn in and think about the awesomeness of our God, all of a sudden, I believe we're going to enter his presence, because if you look at the Lord's Prayer, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, that actually reads in the original language, your name is to be kept holy. Our Father which art in heaven, your name is to be kept holy. Now, where his name is kept holy, that's where his kingdom comes, and that's where his will is done. Oh, so Jesus taught us right from the beginning. He wasn't just saying, oh, nice words of hallowed be your name. No, your name is to be kept holy. And where it's kept holy, that is where your kingdom manifests. And where your kingdom manifests, that's where your will is done. Wow, that totally sheds a new light on how to manifest the kingdom of God wherever we go. So that's why, I literally have been in meetings, Emily, where God wasn't being reverenced. The Holy Spirit said, address that. I address it, and all of a sudden the presence of God comes in. It's the presence of God that changes us. Moses said it's the presence of God that distinguishes us between all the other people that it's on the face of the earth. So the goal is to be in his presence, because when we're in his presence, we are transformed from glory to glory. As we behold him, we become more and more like him. And so that's why Paul said, my goal is to know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his sufferings. I want to be transformed and made conformed into his image.
That was John Bevere. Make sure to check out his new book, Everyday Courage. All right, stay tuned. Up next, it's your feedback.
I'm trying to see what God speaks to your heart. Don't play no games for real, baby. A man who finds a wife finds a good thing, a good thing. Let's chill, yeah. Just a little you and I. If you down to put God in sinner, I got vows in the ring that fit you. Let's chill, yeah. Just a little you and I. If you down to put God in sinner, I got vows in the ring that fit you.
You're listening to Uninvited, Saint and Jackie Legare. The song is Let's Chill. Today's show is brought to you in part by The Chosen. Season 4 of The Chosen is coming to theaters nationwide on February 1st, and this season has everything. Clashing kingdoms, rival rulers, and when they're threatened by the reality of Jesus' growing influence, religious leaders do the unthinkable, choose to ally themselves with the Romans. As the seeds of betrayal are planted and opposition to Jesus' message turns violent, he's left with no alternative but to demand his followers rise up. So get ready, Relevant Podcast listeners. February 1st is the big release day. Go get your tickets now at thechosenriseup.com. All right, it's time for your feedback. Last week, we, called an audible and we just made up our own question. And you guys sent us the best pranks that you've ever pulled or experienced. And it was a last minute decision. We had a few, they were funny. And we thought we gotta go wide with this. We got to give more people in this conversation. So we asked you once again, what's the best prank you've ever pulled or experienced? You hit us up on X at Relevant Podcast. And here's a few of our favorites.
I do have to bring the one. My dad texted me directly and reminded me of a prank he pulled about 10 years ago on one of his friends. So I told him I'd mention it. He took ryegrass seeds and wrote Texas A&M on one of his friends' yards, and they're big Texas Tech fans. And it took 6 weeks, but eventually, like, the Texas A&M logo grew up in their yard.
Grass.
And it stayed. Yeah.
That's great.
Wow, that's a great one.
It was a good one. It was a long game, but it was worth it.
This one, speaking of long games, this sounds meticulous. Just unscrewing the Oreos would take a long time. But back in high school, I put toothpaste in Oreos. I had told the teacher which ones were safe and which ones weren't. So she would hand them out and then eat a safe one to confuse the students. It was wonderful. That's a commitment. That's like staying up all night, type of, just doing a sleeve would take you a while.
And I love that the teacher was in on it. Like, the teacher wasn't like, no, we can't do this.
The teacher prank thing just reminds me, I was in 7th grade Christian school science class, sixth grade. And I was a new student at this Christian school. And so didn't know a lot of the kids yet. Anyway, teacher science class had a big pot of nitrogen, like liquid nitrogen. And he was going to show us how it instantly freezes anything you put into it. So he pulled me outside and he had this prank that he cooked up. And he was going to put a nylon glove on me, but the index finger, he put a hot dog in it. And he's like, just fold your finger over. So it looks like it's your normal finger. Okay. So we go back in and he's like, dip the index finger into the liquid nitrogen. And then I'm going to show them as a thing. I'll take a hammer and I'll show them that I can hit your index finger and it'll crack off the plastic. Like it'll just break off, So really what he's going to do is he's going to smash it. Anyway, so I do that, and he takes it and lay my hand on the table, and he takes a hammer and he goes, whack on the index finger. And it just, the hot dog and everything just explodes and meat chunks just shoot off. Kids are screaming, thinking that the man just beat my frozen finger. It was great. It was the best prank ever because kids were traumatized by it because there's like meat chunks like flying around to the 6th graders. I love that guy. He got fired. He got fired the next year, but
oh my God,
it was great. Not for that.
Yeah, if you can traumatize someone for
but
life,
like he also like he had like this crazy powerful laser that like we could shoot across the city and see it on the water tower, and he would let me take it home on the weekends.
Whoa.
And just play with this laser and stuff. Like the guy he was reckless. I loved him. And like I said, he got fired.
Changed your life. Yeah.
For understandable reasons.
I saw a video of someone like it was taken from like a helicopter. And some guy was just in his driveway, like shining a green laser at it, which, by the way, is not a good, smart thing to do. Yeah. Within minutes, cops show up and arrest the guy in his driveway. And it's filmed all.
It's a felony, man.
Yeah. And it was like, watch all this transpire in 3 minutes. Just some random dude like smoking a cigarette in his driveway to him being taken away by the cops. It was a matter of minutes. And the helicopter driver's like, I got a guy shining a laser down at, they're like, do you know the address? He's like, yeah, I can tell you right now. I got a camera on here. And it was just like, oh, this is poor guy. He didn't think this was going to happen, but yeah, bad idea.
All right, back to the reader ones. Let's see.
I got Joe. He said, I called the local radio station's buy, sell, or trade show and advertised that I was giving away several big ticket items due to a move. I gave the show my friend's name and phone number. He got over 150 calls from people who were interested. That's awesome.
He was later murdered by one of these strangers.
Facebook Marketplace assassination.
That's the Neighbor Getsy one where it's like his bit about like my wife is starting selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace, yes. And I found this out by a stranger standing at my front door and telling me this, and he's like she doesn't sell like high ticket items. She sells like a toddler chair we don't want anymore for $5. He's like, best case scenario, we get $5. Worst case scenario, my entire family is murdered. Yeah. So.
This David said in college he had an alarm clock program on his computer that could access robotic text to voice. On weekends, when he was away, he'd program it to start saying weird things to his roommate at 6 a.m. That's very Jim and Dwight right there. That's
That's good. Yeah. All right. Well, there's more where that came from. If you want to check out the replies over on our social media platforms. All right, it's time for this week's
editorial question of the week.
Well, we were talking earlier about Jesse looking out his window and just seeing crazy stuff happen on the street, and got us thinking. We want to know what's the craziest thing that's happened that you've seen while you were at work. I think we've all experienced a few unexpected events in our workplace or out the window of our workplaces.
Even if it's just some hilarious, awkward interpersonal stuff between coworkers, True. We're down for those, or a lunch mishap or something. I had two Irish guys one day. I was the only one here. It's late, and we usually lock the doors because you get a lot of randos kind of just wandering by. And these two Irish guys walked in, and for some reason thought that we were like a whiskey bar. I have no whiskey. And I was telling them, I was walking them around, showing them, like, look at all this clearly is not a distillery of any kind. And they refused to believe me.
Why would you take the time to walk them around and show them your offices?
They were incredulous.
They could have been casing it.
They were they were from, I will say this.
It's like Home Alone.
The Irish accent is a very friendly accent. It's like, it's two Irish guys. They seem like they're going to be a good time. But yeah, they could have.
Have you never seen the Boston crime shows? They all have Irish accents.
We were robbed the next morning. And then
completely
a couple weeks later, I saw those two guys getting dragged out of the building across the street. Apparently they were living there too with a bunch of dogs. So it's all.
All right. Well, hit us up. Let us know weirdest, craziest things happen at your workplace. Hit us up on X at Relevant Podcast or wherever you see us post.
I could have put these pieces together a lot faster if those cops would have just told me in exchange for those little Debbie snacks.
This is a front for an Irish organized crime ring.
Yeah. Meanwhile, it's low tide on Nutter Butters over here. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, you're like, I got a tip for you guys.
All right.
You lost it.
Well, before we wrap things up, I want to thank John Bevere for joining us. Make sure to check out his new book, Everyday Courage. Also, make sure to check out issue 114 of Relevant. It's available for free over at relevantmagazine.com. Just click on the magazine tab and is presented by The Covenant, available now on Apple TV. The best way to experience it is with Relevant Plus. You get a beautifully designed, enhanced digital magazine plus ad-free viewing at the website, an ad-free version of this podcast, and more. Plans start as low as $250 a month, so you can check out all the information right there on the Relevant Plus tab at relevantmagazine.com. All right, on that note, we'll wrap it. I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Jesse Carey.
I'm Emily Brown.
I'm Marty.
All right, we'll see you on Tuesday. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Relevant Podcast. Check out our features, interviews, and news updates every day at relevantmagazine.com. And make sure to follow Relevant on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest. For more great podcasts, browse the shows on the Relevant Podcast Network, which you can find at our site. And while you're there, don't miss the all-new era of Relevant Magazine. A new issue releases every other month at relevantmagazine.com.
Relevant Podcast Network.